The Let Me Be Frank podcast is proudly sponsored by Glenwood. Glenwood are the UK's leading construction industry debt recovery agency.
Remember, no win, no fee with Glenwood Debt Recovery.
Find out more at glenwoodconstruction.co.uk. Welcome back to another episode of Let Me Be Frank podcast with myself, Simon Houston, and Frank McAvennie.
Yeah.
And the podcast is all about you. That's why it's called Let Me Be Frank.
I would think so, yeah.
Aye, yeah. So how
It was about me yesterday. Anyway,
it was all about you
sure,
yesterday. Yeah. Aye, it was all about you yesterday. I have to say, like, I'm a big fan of Frank's on the football pitch over the years, but what I witnessed yesterday at Glen Eagles, that back nine you had.
Back nine was pretty good. I think I said it was 100, but it was one over. Sorry.
Aye.
Dropped a shot.
Well, we haven't put the video out yet, so the punters haven't seen the clip, but they'll see it.
See it.
But so, as I'm sure you know, because you follow the podcast closely, we played a couple of guys at Glen Eagles yesterday. They won a competition, courtesy of our sponsors Glenwood, to play against myself and Frank at Glen Eagles Queen's Course. Well, we just give the result away now. Why don't we? Aye. So Brian and Alex lost 3-1 to the Let Me Be Frank boys.
Should have been more. We were 4 up.
I know. I put the tools away at that point.
You chucked it, and they came back, and then I had to step in.
Aye, so it was excellent. the weather was fantastic, and Brian Brady and Alec McFarlane, I really enjoyed your company. We'll get a rematch, give you an opportunity to take us on again, and see if you can get the win back. And actually, on that, I'd like to give a shout out to Charlie Brady, who happy 80th birthday.
Oh yeah,
that's Brian's old man, so you can say happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Charlie.
Aye, although he wasn't a fan of yours when you left Celtic to go to West Ham.
I heard, still, he's not go over it.
Aye.
I didn't go over it.
So Charlie has been a season ticket holder for 65 years. So that's proper dyed-in-the-wool Celtic. So there we are. So that was good, and the weather was brilliant, and the golf bit. We'll put a wee clip together, and you can see it all on YouTube. Frank driving a par 4. Now, I'm about to talk about our guest in a wee minute. He's looking at me as though he has no idea what he's talking about. I suspect he's never picked up a golf club in his life. In fact, let's just go straight into that. Brian McClair.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
It's a privilege and a pleasure, gentlemen.
Thank you.
At this particular moment.
Might
change my mind in an hour.
I could sense the golf chat. You were just slumping a wee bit in your chair, and you're like...
No, it's very good, and it's great that you had a good day, but, I mean, clearly, you know, when we were chatting earlier, we were talking about arithmetic and different things. 15-year-olds having season tickets, and you actually dropped 2 shots if you went from 1 over to win 1 under to 1 over.
Well, there you go. Yes.
Just to be pedantic.
I know.
Right, so
about it really,
I don't mark. I
don't
mark
be accurate, you know.
We're going to go into
in case somebody else picks you up.
I would take to play golf for years. Would I get? Oh no!
I know. We're going to talk about pedantry in a wee minute, and but we didn't give you a proper introduction. So Brian McClair, right? So. Correct me if I'm wrong, because Simon Donnelly picked us up on this when we gave his stats. He said, I had more goals than that.
No, you picked it out of Wikipedia, that's why.
Well, where else you could get research in this day and age? I'm a busy man. Brian, for Celtic, 204 appearances, 126 goals. Man United, 471 appearances, 127 goals. In total, 740 appearances and 273 goals in your career. And that's before we start talking about honours. 4 English Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, 1 English League Cup, 1 European Cup Winners' Cup, 1 European Super Cup, a Scottish Premier Division, and a Scottish Cup.
Brilliant. That's the most decorated we've had.
I'm going to ask a question asked of one of your Man United predecessors. Where did it all go wrong?
Well, where it all went wrong was Alex Ferguson, basically, you know. It all went wrong when I was 5 years of age, and I saw when I was at primary school, and we all got taken into the school hall, and we were right at the front, being the youngest primary one or something. On stage was a projector, and I don't recall ever having seen a projector before on a screen, and they put on the highlights of 1967 European Cup team, and I can't remember whether it was in colour or it was in black and white, or if there was any sound. But I fell in love with football, and I thought that's what I wanted. Wow. That's for me, you know. So that's my earliest memory of, and I fell in love with football, no question about it. So what happened in between that time and now has been a complete dream. Complete dream. Some of it is a blank.
Yeah. I mean, a proper dream.
You know, somebody said, and I used to dream.
You know,
I used to walk to school as a 14-year-old. I refused to get a lift with my mother. My mother used to drive my siblings to school. I said no because it was too quick to get to school. I wanted to take the time dreaming along the way of playing for Celtic, Manchester United, because they were my English team, Scotland. And if I went back to that 15-year-old boy and said I'm still talking shite about football now at 61, they would be like, I can't say it's possible. You know, the ghost of, you know.
I know, it must be hard for punters coming up to you. Punters come up to me and they'll ask you a question and I'll give them an answer and they'll go, no, you're talking rubbish. It must be hard for you because you couldn't call you. You'd be saying no. You would put them right.
No, I don't think though, because I can't put people right because there's so many people out there that know a lot more about it than that.
Geniuses.
You know, you're talking about scoring goals and things like that. Now, when you watch modern football, you have assists or goal involvements. And I wonder if somebody started coming up and asked me soon. Excuse me, how many goal involvements did you have for? In that particular game or that particular game, but there are two famous goal involvements. I'm not sure if they're great or not. Still keeps me.
Yes, every time they get shown.
You know,
we're going to talk about two very famous assists of yours in a wee minute.
I think they're called goal involvements. It's
a wee bit unfair. If you're going to compare, it's strikers. So when it comes to Jimmy McGrory, for example, 550 goals for Celtic, nobody's ever going to work out how many goal involvements he had. There's no footage around it.
No,
he couldn't have possibly had time.
Just
started in the middle, scoring
goals,
shooting at every opportunity.
Don't want involved.
Heading.
You were talking about your 15-year-old self walking to school. So I want to talk about a 17-year-old and Lamine Yamal. You watched the game last night.
I did, yes.
What were you doing at 17, Frank?
I was working a building site, I think.
Where? A building site?
Yeah, I was working a building site. It was too much for hard work, so when I was 18 I went and worked in a whiskey bond. Because it wasn't as hard, it wasn't as cold.
Do you think Lamine Yamal would be a better footballer if he has to spend his 17 years?
Sorry, said it. That's
no. But it was quite incredible actually to watch.
Actually, do you know what? Sometimes you see something and you just think, that's brings your belief in football back. Sometimes, because all this for me, sideways and backwards, I just can't be bothered with it. The stats we've got 8% possession. So what? I'm a great believer in playing in midfield. If I get a ball and look up and Brian's moving, I'll find him. Or I'll try and find him. Maybe no all the time, but I'm a great believer in doing that. And that's all they do. That's all that boy does. As soon as he gets the ball, he doesn't pass it back. He goes forward and he tries to make something happen. And last night, 8 out of 10 did happen. It was incredible to that defence.
Have you had much of a chance to watch Yamal playing?
Well, the thing about the Champions League semi-finals is, for me, the two best teams are PSG and Barcelona.
Yeah.
Now, Inter found a way of exploiting Barcelona's weaknesses last night because they play very much a high line. But what's great about Barcelona and about that Flick's got them playing is what Frank said about they're always looking to play forward.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people forget or misunderstand that it's supposed to be entertaining, So yes, there can be entertainment when you play the ball out at the back because most of the defenders right through the history of football game aren't good enough to play football from the back. They're not good enough to keep possession, whatever else. That's the situation you're in. There's the most successful teams have worked out how to play sometimes with when there is little pressure, low press, high press, whatever all the new technology is. There's sometimes nothing wrong with getting the ball and knocking it forward.
Yeah.
And I quite think it would be quite refreshing if a team got promoted into any of the top leagues, say the English Premier League, and they decided they would play in a style similar to Wimbledon probably did when Frank and I were playing, which was successful in the way that they played. I think it was several managers right through history have said that when the ball is in the opposition third, they're no scoring. So a lot of the things about football are simple basics that will never change. You inviting teams on to bypassing the ball out to your centre halves who as I said, traditionally have been the poorest football players on their team.
But have most possession these days.
Most possession now. But I mean, if you're Van Dijk, that's a different thing altogether.
He's an exception to the rule, Brian, because he can defend as well, and he can play.
And he can.
But there's not many of them. There isn't many of them.
I just think, and it's a situation that's been created by Barcelona, but who have played that kind of football for a long time. But remember, when they first started doing it, they had 3 world class.
I know.
Not just good players, 3 world class football players playing in there, and they just basically played triangles with themselves, and some good players round about that, and they've been trying to create that.
I was looking at that last night. That game last night was a lot of youngsters, and I'm thinking, wow, these boys if they stick together, they're going to be, not so much. Nah, I think they're coming into their own at the moment.
Well,
if you get through this,
it's economic circumstances at Barcelona that they've left them in a situation where previously they've gone and bought a lot of players for a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now they're in a situation that's guided by their finances, which are teetering, particularly because of they're renovating their stadium. But they've got no opportunity or no other option but to give these players a chance. Now, if you ask any player how did they get an opportunity to play in the first team for the first time, usually all the same things. Somebody was injured in the position I was playing. Somebody was ill. Somebody was suspended. Somebody had fallen out with the manager. There was no one else. Right? That's how young players get an opportunity. When they get that opportunity, it's then down to them to grasp that and try and stay in the team. But that's nearly all the time. And that's why those young players at Barcelona are playing, because there was no one else.
Yeah.
It's great to watch. It's great. It's refreshing. I mean, it is, because
young players, young players surprise you.
No fear.
Surprise you, no fear.
No fear. They've got nothing.
So we're sitting in the company of a footballer who studied maths and physics at university, and life could have been very different. But what happened, Frank? Why did you?
I studied life. I was studying life.
Aye. So
life in general, and the other half.
Did you get a master's in that?
I got a master's in the other half.
An honours degree in life. Oh dear. But joking aside, so you did.
Was that a joke?
It was. So no, it was Brian. Brian did maths and physics. Although you told us that, so you failed physics the first year and you had to do something else.
Yeah, I was guided towards statistics. Yes, which I thoroughly enjoyed, because all the maths tutors and the physics tutors were all very straight-laced, wore 3-piece tweed suits and small ties and white shirts, shiny shoes. And the first day in the statistic lecture was the guy coming in with a jumper that was 3 sizes too big with holes in the sleeves. Brilliant. And I thought, right away, I quite like the cut of this man's jib, And the first thing he said was, let me tell you about statistics. Statistics are like a loose woman. Once you get your hands on them, you can do anything you want with them.
Oh, brilliant.
And I thought, I'm going to quite like statistics. And I thought maybe Frank was in that lecture.
Sure, was he Frank? Yeah. In disguise with the holds your cardigan and whatever.
Brilliant. That's a great quote. That's a great quote for a teacher. That's brilliant.
So at age of 17, you weren't obviously playing for Barcelona in the Champions League semi-final, but 17, you'd played for Motherwell at that point?
17, I had played for Motherwell, I'd been at Aston Villa when I was 16, full term, and I went down there, and it worked out in several different ways, but I got freed after 13 months, and I came back to Scotland and I signed for it was a lesson in how football can be very much a roller coaster. I'd been freed by Aston Villa. I went up, David Hay, who had known about me, was assistant manager to Ali McLeod at Motherwell, and he said, if I ever come back, come over and we'll give you an opportunity to try out again. And I did that, and after one training session, Ali McLeod got me into the office, and this is about roller coaster. I'd just been freed, and he got me in after one training session and says, I want you to play for the first team tomorrow. Wow. And I was like, Yeah, I want you to play in the League Cup tomorrow. And I was like, oh wow, that's incredible. But I had also told someone that I knew that if Celtic were interested, I would. And I said, I just want to hear if Celtic are interested or not. I'll leave it just now. However, Celtic turned down the opportunity for me to go in and have a trial at that moment, and I played the I played the following game,
Fantastic.
And then back onto the roller coaster, 2 or 3 games played, and Alan McLeod got sacked. And David Hay got the job, and I was out of the team for most of that season. Having said that, though, they went on a long unbeaten run and ended up getting promotion from and won the Scottish First Division Championship to get into the Scottish Premier League that season.
I think it's probably fair to say that you really came in everyone's radar when you scored those 5 goals against Celtic and Rangers in the space of a couple of weeks. You had the hat-trick against Rangers and then a double against Celtic. People knew who you were, but I think at that point I thought, wow, this is a real deal.
Yeah, you get sometimes you have events that just go really well your way. I was always a midfield player, so I love scoring goals, but I was a midfield player. And Motherwell was struggling in the second season. I was there under Jock Wallace and Frank McAvennie, and they came to me one day and said, "Look, would you think about playing up as a forward?" And I'm like, "Never played as a forward. I couldn't understand any reason why they would think that I would be able to play as a forward." And I played a youth team game at Clydebank, and we got beat 4-3, and I scored all 3 goals. And they played me on the Saturday, and I scored a goal. I think it was a winning goal in that particular game. And I ended up playing the rest of the games that season. I think I scored 11, and that was enough goals to keep them in the Premier League. And then, sometimes you have great patches, We'd played Celtic at home early in the season, and they beat us 7, right? And they beat us 7, right?
Was that in 83?
That would have been 82,
83, yeah. That was Charlie Nicholas scored 4 in that game.
Charlie was running about laughing during the game and all that, and I'm like, this is but funny, the strange thing of that is that in the wonderful Sunday Scottish newspaper, the Sunday Post, Dougie Bailey gave me man of the match.
In that 7-0 game?
In that 7-0 game. So I think I had loads of shots and loads of things, but I'd never managed to score in that particular game.
Doug Bailey used to play for Rangers by any chance?
Doug Bailey, yeah, but his son played for Celtic.
It was great.
Next to there. And then, when we played that game in January, the weather was slightly different. It was blowing a wind and all that. But Celtic scored early, and I thought, here we go again, this is another doing, yeah.
Doug Bailey, he once wrote about me when I first came. He says, that was where I've seen more meat in a butcher's pencil. He says, but the boy won't pull out a tackle. And I thought that was quite good. I thought, yeah, that'll do me.
Actually, ex-footballers going on to become writers, journalists. Did that ever occur to either of you?
Not me, but...
Well, you obviously had your column in the paper.
Yes, I was good at it as well.
You were very good at it, aye.
I nearly get cancelled 3 times, but it was good.
I couldn't see any avenue of being involved in football after they'd played.
Yeah.
There wasn't really the opportunities that are now. My thing about media, either written or verbal or visual now, is that we all do the same thing. We didn't like getting criticised. Nobody likes getting criticised, but it's going to happen. And you had old players saying, and you can get it when you get older, about they're just trying to put food on the table for their own families and all that, and that's what they had to do. But I found it unpalatable that ex-pros would slag off present pros, and I was find that I vowed that I couldn't do that. I couldn't see myself. Unless of course
breath of fresh air, because there's ways of saying things. Everyone's entitled to a bad game, but there's ways of saying things other than get him off his hopeless.
I've got a face for radio, Frank, so that's the kind of...
Well, we had Andy Walker in this studio a few weeks ago, and I mean, Andy, in the eyes of many Celtic fans, has gone from hero to villain, because centenary season... Well, didn't he score as many as you, did he?
He did. He was top goal scorer.
He did. Then, of course, he becomes a co-commentator and tries to be impartial, in his opinion, and now Celtic fans, a lot of them can't stand it.
Because any penalties, you say that wasn't a penalty, and you know what it's like, you can't say that.
Yeah.
You've got to say, it's a penalty. Or the Celtic supporters will have a go at you if you don't say that, and the Rangers will, or whoever. You just can't win, so it's not a good, unless you've got thick skin, Brian, it's no for me. It's not for me anyway.
It depends on. I mean,
Andy doesn't care. You know, Andy doesn't care.
It depends if you want to have that situation. I would rather.
Yeah. Well, Andy doesn't do social media or nothing, so.
I say, for me, I just was not the sort of thing that I felt I could do, and I still wouldn't be particularly partial to it. I mentioned every now and again, you mention something which is your opinion about something, but not all the time.
Yeah.
And you're always going to be criticised in Scotland, depending on what you say in what particular game. There's always going to be things like that. It's our default to be negative anyway. So,
but you're a regular at Parkhead. You still go and watch. Do you live up here at the moment? Are you?
No,
you're down south. So you go whenever you can.
I go to nearly all the games, all the home games. Yeah, yeah. So.
It's a good idea to come up and then go and see your family and then go back down.
There's plenty of people to come and visit, Frank. Yeah, and it's a great day. I thoroughly enjoy going to the whole event, the whole day. You know, go for a couple of pints before, meet people. A lot of people that are that I don't know. That you were asking me earlier about the beard and the hair. That it astonishes me that I get recognised in Glasgow more than anywhere else.
Yeah,
and this is people from a long time ago. Most of it, and a lot of younger people also. So I'm amazed at every moment. And the beauty of technology now is that most people want a selfie, a picture, which is a lot quicker than writing out your name. I used to hate having a long name like you. Maybe like to have an own name. You know what I mean?
I know.
I've not been. I've never been particularly jealous of any other football players, but I had a wee hint of envy for John Fashanu at one point because all he wrote on was Fash.
Yeah, aye, that's it. I know.
Aye.
You know, I thought, that's good, that, you know. So that's why I started writing best wishes, because I was getting really...
Well, spare a thought for poor Jan Venegura Hesselink.
I know.
I feel very sorry for him.
I feel very sorry,
Pierre Van Hooydje donkey.
I know. Oh.
So, you two didn't play in the same team, ever?
No.
You played for the two teams? You both played for Celtic and you both played for, well, Aston Villa, not really. Did you ever get a...
Scotland.
No. Scotland.
Yeah.
But no, Aston Villa, I just played for the youth team.
I played 2 games for Aston Villa,
yeah. So you came to Celtic in July 1987, and not necessarily. Sorry, you left in July 1987. You came in October 1987, not necessarily as a replacement for Brian, because Andy Walker had come in the summer. But your style might have been a bit more similar to Brian's.
Yeah, I think so. They wanted somebody who just didn't. You know, Andy's Andy. He wants a game. He wants a ball and score goals. But I suppose he didn't like doing the work, the graft that we used to do in a park. Because I think it's something to do with you. I played 4 years in midfield for St Mirren.
Yeah.
So I think that might have had something to do with the fact that you appreciate your teammates, but sometimes, you know, when I ran by the strikers at St Mirren's, at Frank McDougall and that, they're not going to cover me. You know?
Frank
no,
McDougall,
Frank
no,
you know what I'm saying. And Jimmy Bowen, no chance of covering. So it was, and I used to, when I was playing up front, I used to come back. If the midfield ran by me, I'd cover them. I'd just go out back and cover them.
Saying there about Frank McDougall, who I believe is a massive Celtic supporter.
Oh, unbelievable.
And he went to Aberdeen. Fergie took him to Aberdeen.
I know.
And he scored 4 goals in a 4-0 victory at Aberdeen. But there's no video of it. It wasn't on the telly.
He actually scored 3 against Rangers.
Scored 4 against us.
Scored 3 against Rangers in the same. It was within
just
10
quite
days.
Close to each other, aye.
10 days or something. And he phoned me up. And I'm saying, Mr. Mark, you've just scored 7 goals against the Old Firm. Mr. Mark, he says, I only got 8 chances and I missed a sitter. So that's McDougall. The King, he used to do that, but
he was clinical in that particular game. Wow, 4, bang, 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 bang.
Oh, he was good. Left foot, right foot, head. He had everything, the boy. He was wonderful.
There's so much to talk about. So I'm looking at the clock here and I'm thinking, right, we'll dedicate the second half to Man United and all that goes with it. But still in that Celtic time, there was an embarrassment of riches, I think, up front in the early to mid-80s. You had Frank McAvennie, obviously yourself, Maurice Johnson, and then Rambo came in. And you mentioned another couple of names too. Davy Hay was always seemed to be signing strikers.
It seemed to me, because I was always seemed to be the one that got left out. You know, so he signed Jim Melrose. John Cahoon, who ended up playing as a winger, was actually a forward when he came from Stirling Albion. So as I say, everyone that signed I think maybe apart from when Rambo came, I was the one that got left out, which may have been a gauntlet that was laid down by Davy Hay. He never actually verbalised that, but I just thought, well, okay, it's a challenge, and I'll take that. I never went into a huff about it. I just wanted to, and one of the other things that Frank said there, I just wanted to play.
Yeah.
It didn't matter where I played. No. If you've picked as in midfield or winger or whatever else, I just wanted to start in the game and play that particular game. And I think it's always been a beneficial to me that ability to play badly everywhere is got me a lot more games than maybe it would if I was just a one position player.
What do you think was the problem with David? Because didn't play at Motherwell, didn't play at Celtic.
No, I just think it was. There's nothing wrong with it because I mean, as I say, the Motherwell thing I'd been involved in and out, and I was only 17, so I was very raw. But he took over a team that clearly weren't in form, and that caused Alan McClair to lose his job. He found a way of getting them to win, and they went on. So I think they were unbeaten in 20.
Yeah.
I got in at the end of the season, so the last number of games I was played, I scored my first goal at East Stirling. I think was the. I think
Somebody else was going to
scored at Palmerston as well. Glamorous places. So I'd played enough games to get a medal then. So that was the first thing I'd won as a professional football player.
We can't have a Let Me Be Frank without talking about Mo Johnston because he's a name that pops up most weeks. But he was obviously you played alongside him quite a bit for a lot of games. What was he like as a strike partner? He
was great to play with. We complemented each other, and he was. People might say team player. I think he was a team player. I think he was very much part of the team. He stuck out because of the way he looked and other different situations because of his lifestyle. But we got on well, particularly on the pitch, really well as a partnership on the pitch. Off the pitch, we were different characters, but we had utmost respect for each other and still have respect for each other. Now, every now and again, somebody that's met him in America and he always sends his best wishes. So.
You'd obviously been down in Manchester for at least a couple of years, or a couple of years when that whole carry on happened, and he went to Rangers instead. How much did that surprise you?
I think it always surprises you when 1 minute somebody's there being paraded as a Celtic player.
I suppose, yes.
And it's all that kind of thing, and you think, oh, pretty good that Mo's going back to Celtic because you want your Celtic to do well.
Yeah.
And then a thing of a small period of time, the next minute he's like, is there with Graham Souness? What was that?
I know.
And it's like, that's...
I don't understand why. Celtic as well. Why they done it? Why they paraded him before signing him?
Well, that was clearly the mistake about get the name on a contract,
Yeah, but also the Billy McNeil, whoever would not have been thinking in a million years it was going to go across the city either. So who?
No, I don't know. There was rumours. So I'd have got him signed before. Listen, it didn't matter. He done what he done. But it's.
And he went there and he was successful as a football player there, And I can't imagine what it was like for him being a player there and a person. I know he was living in Edinburgh, but still, it must have been a tough time, Maybe that's one of the reasons why he's living in America.
Well, some of the boys made him welcome when he came in, especially Coisty. When he came in, apparently they were at the hotel and Coisty put a chair away over in the corner, one chair, one knife and fork over there, and he's come round and introduced us, so everyone's getting introduced. There you go, and he's going, there's no spaces, and the other boys are just sitting eating. So that, welcome to Rangers, that was it.
To my thinking anyway, 2 of your greatest goals for Celtic came in cup final defeats, both the Rangers and both League Cup finals. And obviously you remember the goals I'm talking about. One was an absolute peach in at the top corner, but the one when Tam Burns lifted the ball over the wall and you scored the volley, what a goal that was. Had you been practising it?
We did it the day before, It was Tommy's idea. It was his goal, it was his construction. He just chose me for some whatever reason to be the guy that he was going to flick it over.
Aye.
And we were terrible at it the day before. It was,
He's the worst, isn't it?
Oh,
It's
it's
great.
just like, and I'm thinking, and you get a free kick in this kind of position because, I mean, you're playing a game of that magnitude, and you're playing against Rangers at Hampden, you know, wonderful crowd, wonderful atmosphere, and you're actually thinking, I don't know idea if he's actually going to do this or not, because we didn't have
A signal.
word or he put his scratch his ear like that. It was just, you just had to be prepared that he was, because there was 2 or 3 people on the ball, and then I think, he's going to do it, and as soon as he flicks it, I've got his spin, and it worked magnificently well at the time, but the rehearsals were poor.
It was, but it was executed perfectly. And
He put it in exactly the right spot though. So it's always a matter of getting the contact. You know, if you get a good contact of exactly where the ball was in relation to the goals, you've got a great chance of scoring. And they're defenders at that point. They have no chance of getting anywhere close. And their goalkeeper is also very much surprised. So he's not set for this. He's set for a shot up here and up there. You know, he's with his position, so when there's also faced with the ball being there, all you need to get is concentrate and hitting a good contact on the ball past him. So,
Brilliant.
Do you remember watching that goal? It was absolute crack. I think it was quite close to the final whistle as well. I think it was another equaliser. I think it was 3-2 after extra time. Ali McCoy scored a hat-trick.
I don't really want to think about what
Ali McCoy's the guy that keeps saying he's going to come on the podcast.
Yeah, sure he does, yeah.
So as ever, it's a time for a shout out to our sponsors at Glenwood. Now this is a spectacular setup at Up Next Studios in Glasgow where we film Let Me Be Frank. And regardless of what Macca and I talk about, there's one thing everyone agrees on, just how good the podcast looks. And that's, you know, we're lucky to be in the position to film our weekly episodes here at Up Next with Alan, Graham and Murray. And that's largely thanks to the wonderful help we receive from our sponsors, Glenwood. And that's what Glenwood does. It provides hugely important assistance to businesses when they need it, and when they need it most, and when they feel there's no one else to turn to. So Glenwood are experts in debt recovery within the construction industry. If you're a business and someone owes you money and they're messing you about, Glenwood are the people who to call to get what you are rightfully owed. If you do the job, it's only right that you get paid, and they are there to help you do that. And if you need to get in touch with them, that's dead easy. It's glenwoodconstruction.co.uk. And as ever, he's not here. Don't forget to tell them Frank sent you. Fergie, Man United, all of that. Wow. So can you remember the moment it first became apparent you could go to Old Trafford?
I think David Hay had so we were one of those. There was early on in that season, or earlier before Christmas anyway. There was some kind of contract negotiations between the players that were out of contract. I think me, Mo, Alan McAvennie, Murdo McLeod, and then but there was the main thrust of it, or the same concentration, seemed to be with Morris and his representatives, and I think that it got to a point where David thought it was a distraction, and he called me in just to tell me, look, there's no more negotiations at the moment. I'm just going to leave it until such times as the season has come to a conclusion or a similar particular point. But he says that we're in a situation now, must have been just after Christmas, where because of the contract rules at the time, I'm obliged to tell you that because your contract's got 5 or 6 months to go, you're entitled to speak to any club that you want to. And I said, okay, well, thanks very much for letting me know, but I had no intention of doing anything at that particular point, but apart from playing for Celtic. And I think maybe a journalist let me know that Alex Ferguson was interested, which surprised me because you're talking about Manchester United, you know. I mean, I'd been a supporter of theirs since the early 70s, and I knew all about them and the players that they'd had and they had at that point and we'd had before and what players were available. And I thought, you know, he's out of all the players, certainly in the UK, even though the United weren't the force that they became, would have been interesting to go to Manchester United. So it was certainly a big boosted my confidence and that he was thinking that I would be one of the players that he would like to recruit. But it was never absolutely nailed on. Yes, that's it. I'm finished. I'm not going to play for Celtic anymore. That came down right to the very end, and I only went. The decision I made to go to Manchester was because he made more of a concerted effort than Celtic did, and I
Did you have somebody to look
decided-
after you, or were you doing it yourself?
Mainly doing it myself, yeah. But it was never anything to do with financial situations because every club that were interested in me then, Spurs, Chelsea, Cologne, a few other teams from abroad, Celtic as well, all offered me more money. And I went to, and I felt quite good about that I'd gone somewhere for football reasons, not financial reasons.
But that's good because it's just about football. I mean, I done it leaving West Ham. I was only on 70 quid a week, £100 a week more at West Ham than what I was at St Mirren. I just done it because I wanted to play against the best. And it's good that you wanted to do that, and it's just for football reasons.
It was nothing to do with money. Yeah. So otherwise, I'd have gone to Germany, or I'd have went to Chelsea. Chelsea offered a ridiculous amount of money even then, crazy money. Yeah.
You experience both ends of the spectrum at Man United though as well, because obviously all the glory years and all the titles and all the playing alongside Cantona and Beckham. But when you went there, things weren't that great right at the start. And obviously, Fergie's Jacob was in a shoogly peg too for a while.
Well, at the start, the first season I was there, we finished second.
Yeah.
But we were we weren't even close to the champions, Liverpool.
Yeah.
We had a great end to the season. We won a run of games, unbeaten and winning several of them that made the gap a lot closer than it had been before that. But we were never in contention. And you wanted to be in contention. Great for me, I'd managed to score 20 league goals, which is the first time anybody had done that since George Best in the 60s. But it was irrelevant to me. I'm a team player. I wanted to win, and I wanted to win as a team. And it was clear that so Fergie by then had been there for 19 months. Him and Archie Knox had formulated an idea of where they wanted to go, and what kind of player they were interested in recruiting. And they set about doing that over that period of time, and other players left, a lot of players that were good players and popular players. But all they were interested in was there's a number of times you're available to pull the shirt over your head. And they felt a lot of those players were injury prone, and that as much as they were good guys and very good players, they weren't going to be of any benefit to them, so they had to go.
These got that era of kind of Whiteside and McGrath and all that. And,
Whiteside, McGrath, Moran, Remy Moses, a lot of good players. All Jesper Olsen after a year as well. Gordon Strachan also went quite... And then they had a good idea of exactly what they wanted. And the main thing, and if you look at the players that he signed in that period of time, from me through Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, Paul Ince, Dennis Irwin.
Yeah, you're quoting the lyrics of that Status Quo song at the moment, are you not?
All played, like that. All played a lot of games and a lot of seasons, a lot of games over a good number of years. So at the end, they got it right, but it was a struggle earlier on. There was the season that everybody keeps talking about, 89, 90 is probably worse or as comparable to what they're having now. And the number of games we lost and all that. And we just got out of a relegation scrap that I don't think we would have got out of, because we had an awful lot of influential players who were injured, who came back to be important players in the cup final, like Brian Robson, for example.
One of Fergie's the biggest decisions he made, from my perspective, in those early years, was that FA Cup final replay with Jim Leighton. And to the outsider looking in, thinking that's heartbreaking for that guy. But he got the outcome.
As a one-off event, but if you're part of things leading up to that game, I looked at the semi-final against Oldham, and Jim had a real difficult time in that game. The Wednesday before, or one of the previously, We went to the City ground to play Forest. We lost 4-0. Stuart Pearce got a free kick. You know what Stuart Pearce, I mean, thunderous things, you know. He hit me in the back of the leg once. I had a mark, the shape of the ball and the lines on the back of my leg, you know.
Yeah.
And he runs up to hit this ball as you'd expect. You've got to be brave in the wall. And he chipped it over the wall. And you thought, oh, it's a dolly for Jim. Just pick it up. He turned around, he dived over it.
Oh, no.
Virtually bobbled and he dived over it. So he was having a real difficult time anyway. And in the final, you look at the final and he has a really poor game.
It was a 3-3 game, wasn't it?
And then we really got out of it with the 2 late goals again. That was something that was marked by Alex Ferguson's era as a Manchester United manager in particular. And then it was a huge surprise even at that point that, you know, because he changed what he did. He was quite he was very much a rhythm in what he did with regards to preparation for games. But the game replay was on a Thursday night, and on the Wednesday night he got us in as soon as we got to the hotel to do the teammate. They never did that before, so that was a bit strange. And when he names the team, and Jim's clearly not in it, you're like, is that what he say that? They're going, did he say Sealy there?
Is Les Sealy's name in the subs?
Usually just listening to hear your own name, you know, and now you're going, did he say Sealy there, you know? And I suppose, fortunately and unfortunately to me, depending on if maybe unfortunate at the time because I was rooming with Jim and he was very upset, but fortunately I was rooming him so I could tell some stories about that now. That I think are funny that Jim probably doesn't think.
Oh,
funny,
Jim,
you know,
Jim doesn't find anything funny, does he?
So, and again, you win the game 1-0, so you've got to accept it. He's in. He said, I think I had a conversation once, and he said, I don't pick teams based on any kind of emotion. I'm just trying to pick a team he thinks we're going to win the game, and he was pretty good at that. So.
Apart from the World Cup when he left me out. Anyway, it's another story.
But you barricaded him in his bedroom. What he's meant to do?
I know, that's all right.
I don't know if that's true or not.
What was he wasn't an enemy? Anyway.
So the Fergie hairdryer thing, was that sort of overstated?
No.
Did you witness that a few times?
Oh,
Did you receive it a few times?
Oh, all the time, aye. But you get you got a coping strategy to it. The first one you get that it was, and this is the measure of someone who's so competitive that they want to win at everything, not just at football, but win all the time. And it was a pre-season game. I'd seen him doing it a couple of times when we were in Scandinavia to some of the other players, and it was quite terrifying, you know, because up to that point, you know, it's been all nice Fergie and it romanced you to kind of get you signed and all that, you know, and then all of a sudden it turns into this devil. And I thought, such a bit harsh to me pre-season. And we'd played in Windsor Park against the League of Ireland select in the north. And we drew 0-0 and I thought I'd done quite well. You know, I thought pre-season, this is for getting you fit. And he came in at the end of the game and just lost it. And he got to me and just ripped shreds off me, and I, unbeknown again, naively, stupidly, I'd swapped my shirt with one of the League of Ireland players who's come up and said, like, I'm a big United fan. He went, I'm like, all right, you know, like, no problem. And nobody ever said, because at Celtic they were a bit more generous than that. And I'm the only one sitting there, and I've got this green top over my shoulder.
Oh,
you know,
no
top. And then he just said, where's your fucking shirt? And I went, I've swapped it. Oh, well, he just... Who do you think you are? Do you think is that your shirt? You deserve it? You deserve it? You don't, let me tell you, you don't deserve it. The way you're going to play like that, you'll never be a player and all that. And I'm like, I'm not sure I can put up with this, you know. Anyway, finishes. And then I make another error, which I've never, ever done again, never did again. I put it on my hand and he'd finished everything and he looked, turns around, he's still staring, his face is still bright red, still raging. I go, what the fuck is it? I goes, Gaffer, will I go and ask for it back? And he just looked at me and just went, you fucking stupid bastard. And I was like, I'm never ever going to say anything again back to him. Oh my God. I thought, I can't go with this. This is pre-season. What's it going to be like when it gets to...
I know.
I tell you what, I've worked with some scary bosses over the years. I've worked with some newspaper editors, absolutely terrifying me. But even just you telling that story there, I'm sitting here shaking.
Were you there with the Beckham thing when the ball kicked off. He hit Beckham.
No,
or
I was
something or
outside.
something.
I was in the. I was outside then. I know all the things that happened and all that, but that was a complete.
Oh, of course.
Was it
I
an
mean,
accident? They flung
Have
the
you seen
kick.
Fergie and
Was
training
it,
and
did they
all
fling
that
it or
kind of
kick
thing?
it?
kicked
Did
it,
he
like.
kick
He was
it?
a
I mean,
capable.
Fergie was never a
he
good
kicked
player
it.
anyway.
No, he was. If you'd have seen him in training and all that, he
Oh,
was enthusiastic and running around and all that kind of thing, and no strength in him. There's no strength in him, and it was just a complete fluke. He kicks it. He just raging, you know. He launches his foot in it and just went. And the thing is, a lot of the time, because you're concentrating on him, you wouldn't notice him consequences, because he used to throw all sorts of things. He'd throw cups of tea and all that kind of thing. He'd swipe all of them. They used to bring food into the dressing room after the games. He'd swipe it all over the place and all that, you know. And the people behind it, he was, like this side, would get covered in bread and all that. He couldn't move until he'd gone out, you know, because he thought, oh, if I move, I'm going to get it, you know. And it caught him in the head. And David, I think, made a bit more of it than it actually turned out to be, you know. But they had at that particular time, they had a fractious relationship, you know. But he just wanted the best out of the players, you know, and that was something. I don't think he didn't mean it, you know, because if it meant it, he'd have hit Gary Neville.
Some of the boys at Man United, no Sharpie and all that, they were telling me that Fergie was just, he'd come down on everyone if you don't wear the right things and all that. But when he came to Cantona, he was
Sharpie,
a bit softer.
But that's the kind of managing. We were chatting earlier about management, manager styles, and if you've got a player who's an influential player, who's a game-changing player. So Cantona was a game-changing player, and the thing with Sharpie was Sharpie always got caught. You know, Giggsy was nearly there all the time. Every situation, but Giggsy was kind of fucking. He was like Batman or something like that. He could just fucking disappear into the shadows, you know. And Sharpie was there, caught in the spotlight, you know. You know, his hand in the jar, you know. And there was we used to as a result of success, you would the summer pre-season, the local authority, so there was Trafford and Manchester, would have a civic reception for you where you had to go along. Manager made you go along to sit with boring politicians, right? And you know, these other dignitaries, right, in a way, hated it, right? But he told you had to go and you had to wear suit, but whatever he says, suit, whatever. Now Sharpie comes in and he's wearing a suit, which is not. It's a young guy. He's a younger guy. He's a bit of a, but it's not at all.
No,
really outrageous, and it's not as if it's a white suit. He's coming.
It's not the Spice Boys type thing, though.
No, but it's a bit, you know, just a nice. But he decided because it was like Sharpie, you know, was having it. So this is in the champagne section before he goes over and drags him over to the corner and fucking berates him for having this suit on, and these Sharpie's going, "Oh, I've only got this and that. You know why you always fucking doing that shit? It's always fucking you. Why is it fucking you? You know." Anyway, so. And another thing about Fergie was you had to be on time. But Eric's late, right? So he's late. So anyway, we're thinking, oh, he's late. He's late. He's going to get something for being late, you know. Anyway, he comes in, and he's standing next to me and Brian Robson, and Steve Bruce, and he comes in, and he's got a blue suit on, very blue suit on, no tie, white shirt, collar up, and bright red leather high top Nikes on, and we're going, the fuck is he going? Sharpie's going, you know, pointing and all that kind of thing, and Fergie looks at him and goes, Eric, what a boy, yeah.
That's what he told me.
Sharpie's like that.
What a boy.
What the fuck?
Oh dear.
Was Cantona your roommate? Did you share with him?
No, I don't think he would have had me. He's very good at working out exactly what kind of characters people were and all that. So he shared a room with Peter Schmeichel.
Yeah.
Because I always looking for ways to entertain myself, you know, so I don't think he would have taken the chance of being in a roommate of mine, you know.
No.
Yeah. Did you find ways of entertaining yourself?
All the time, yes.
So, the 2 assists. So you made the point earlier about the only time you see yourself in Sky Sports is when with these 2 assists.
It's good now. Like years going on about that stuff there, but I look at it this way: is that I played in a game that if everybody who said they were at the game at Love Street in 1986, there was 113,000 at the game.
Of course there was.
Now, it's wonderful. I was just thinking about coming down to be involved in. You were playing in the centenary season. It's wonderful to be involved in a season that you win the league that's so memorable.
Yeah.
Right. So you could have been just playing in that particular game and they don't forget.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to be involved in the whole process of that. So in 1986, I missed a penalty at Highbury. I was responsible for a 20-man brawl against Arsenal.
You did kick Nigel Winterburn on the back.
It was a 20-man brawl at Old Trafford. I passed the ball to, when I call him sometimes the Spice Boy, I passed the ball to some French guy. And that's my career. Really. That's all anybody ever wants to talk about.
Tell me, when you passed the ball to Beckham in his own half, please tell me you said shoot.
No, it's worse. No, because you got to go back to what you're saying. So the game's virtually over at Sellers Park. You're playing in Wimbledon at Sam, and the game's over. Right, it's an armed sub, and the manager. So Fergie turns around and says, "Look, I'm going to put you on. The game's that I want you to go and calm things down. Just get the ball, just keep the ball, dictate the pace of the ball, right? And I'll take instructions. I'll always listen to what he says. I get on the pitch. The ball comes to me. I roll it to David, and this is in our centre circle. I run round behind him, expect him just to roll the ball back to me to side, and I can pass the ball to Dennis Irwin, and we can build up some play towards them, right? And then we'll play out the rest of the game. And as I pass the ball to him and I go around and I turn around and look, I'm going,
he's going to shoot.
Fucking hell, he's going to shoot. I'm thinking, he's fucking, don't shoot. Anyway, he fucking shoots, doesn't he? So I'm like, and it's quite far away, you know. And we had always at Sellers Park, load of away fans, always, majority of fans there. So there, a load of them are behind the goals. And I'm going, fucking hell, it's not bad, that. And you're watching the goalie, he thinks it's not bad either, right? Anyway, the supporters fucking go up, don't they? Behind the goals, don't they? I think, fucking, you jump on his back, right? Yeah. But I didn't jump on his back. I'm looking, the only thing I can think about, fuck's sake.
You'd have missed that.
Scottish goalkeeper.
Neil Sullivan.
So, was that? I never even thought of that.
That was in my head, right? And then I'm thinking, he's going to go fucking mental, by the way.
If you can imagine if he missed it.
He's just going to mental. He did anyway.
Did he?
Then I'm thinking, he's told me what to do, and I know he scored, but it's not that's not the instruction. Right? I think, what the fuck, I'm going to get a hairdryer for fucking passing the ball to him, right? So he has a go at me, right? And has a go at me, then he has a go. He just goes, don't you ever fucking try that again. Don't ever fucking try that again. Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
Right.
So that Fergie said that to David Beckham
after the game, man.
But I think because he'd fell out with that team, didn't he?
He just,
but he was painful, though. He's very young at that point.
I got it for not following instructions.
But it's one of them.
He said, what are you doing? Pass the ball to him.
Just like we were talking about at the beginning, we're talking about it's entertainment. They don't. I mean, that's the entertainment. If ever there's one and he wants to stop it.
It's funny. It came off from him. You know, it's something that I think he tried all the time in training and different things, but it came off in a game, and it came off in a game like that. And I jumped up on his back, which I regret, because it might be one less thing for people to see me involved in, you know. So it's I was a master of a 13-inch pass.
It must have been quite a thing, though, being at Man United at that point when the whole brand Beckham starts, and it's like Hollywood, you know.
I mean, it's just all part of the kind of success, and also which became global. Because you know, at the start of the Premier League war, it was going to turn out like. I mean, it's going to be different because of all different circumstances, and they were all there at the right time and different things with relationships. Now, when you're not so close to some of the younger players, you don't have to be party to exactly what was going on in their life. So you knew that. My kids love the Spice Girls, and unfortunately, my grandchildren like them now. So I've got to play it in the car, right? So. We played at Stamford Bridge, and Victoria was there, and I had no idea that there was no kind of. Victoria was there, and we were on the bus outside the players' lounge, and she was standing at the top of the steps, so she was kind of right at the level of where we'd be sitting, and so you could see her quite close up, and she had acne, right? It's right, and I was like, and I used to write this column in the magazine called Life of Brian, you know, and I used to find things that are funny that I thought were funny, right, to put in the magazine. Right? Some of them were truthful, some of them I just made up. But and it usually came out so about 6 weeks after this event, right? So I'd seen her there, and I went home and said to my kids, "Oh, I saw that one of the Spice Girls was at the game. Oh, Dad, which one was it?" I said, "Spotty Spice." and the kids are going, "You mean Sporty?" I said, no, not Sporty. The one with the black, when she wears a black dress. Oh, that's posh. No, she's Spotty. Spotty Spice, right? So I put this in the magazine. I had no idea there was a relationship there, right? So I call her Spotty Spice, and it comes out in the magazine, you know, that Spotty Spice. So that's for
David
me. It's always been. They wouldn't say anything to me, you know, because.
Were they scared of you?
Oh, of course, yeah. Scared of all of us, because particularly with me with things I writing in the magazine and all that kind of thing, I would have written not anything.
But plus in those days you didn't look like you look now. You look like Billy Connolly now. You don't look. You would scare most people.
No. It's respectful. I think it is. But they knew exactly what it would be like.
That draft of players were good players,
and they wanted to win. That's a huge part of their success.
Yeah.
At the end, it's amazing that because he's a good lad, David. He's always been a good lad. So there might be a different kind of thing that gets portrayed, but anybody that ever played for our teams were always good people, good players, but good characters, you know. And he's gone on to become an incredible global person. But if I met him in the street, he'd be quite happy to say hello, which is not always the case with some of the other players. You know, that you come across. So.
What I love about that class of '92 is there's a picture of them all really, really young, and they're all lined up together. I think Fergie might be in the picture, and maybe whoever the assistant manager at the time might be in the photograph. But the guy who didn't go on to make it is at the back, and it makes it easy for picture editors just to kind of crop.
Yeah, but there's lots of players in that youth team they had. There was a lot of players in that group that went on to have careers in the game. Savage was in that. Robbie Savage was in that.
Was he?
Yeah, he was in that. Yeah, he was just a guy that just ran around. Boy, he made a career of doing that.
Yeah.
And now he's made a career of doing the same things he did then.
Talking crap.
Well, that's what he does. So he did then as well. So he was the same thing, you know. He was full of shit, you know, then. So there was a few. Chris Gaspar, he's another good player who's... and the other one that was like Ben Thornley, who's probably in the picture.
Yeah.
Ben got a cruciate injury that really knocked his career backwards, you know. But he was a very good player as well. So
second assist was the Cantona chip, but what a goal! I mean, what a goal that was! And the collar was up, and he just, you know, when he turns round and he celebrates like, what else was I meant to do?
I know.
Well, that's because I think it's saying that was like the expectation of the whole event. But if you go back to the start of the, you know, if you go back a minute or so before, or less than a minute, he passes the ball to me on the halfway line, but it's a bad pass, right? So but I'm going forward and it's behind me.
Yeah.
So he's passed it behind me, and I've managed to stick my left foot out, which is mostly redundant, and managed to drag it back forward. So I've saved the whole kind of move from the beginning. And at the end of it, then I've put the ball on the perfect position for him, and all he has to do is just hit it. Really, you know, it's defined from when I put the ball. So I don't think I got enough credit for this goal involvement.
Well, you do now.
So I don't basically only get to see my arm now. I used to see him holding me, giving him a little hug. Little man, after he just scored.
You know? I'll be going next week.
I can now with all that AI, I'll be completely. It'll be something with David Beckham. It'll be something more popular. It'll be in that. Nelson Mandela will be.
Spotty.
It was his.
Spotty.
Maybe there's Spotty Spice. I'm just sorry.
Even in that David Beckham, maybe it'll be Gary Neville just jumping on his back now because of all this new technology you can do. Brushed out of history.
Yeah, brilliant.
Maybe they should introduce a goal involvement deluxe. You know, so not just tapping at somebody, but you know, actually doing a wee bit extra.
There's never any, and it's like I just I can see why, because it's given you something else to talk about and some other data to be able to say how good a season you've had, you know. So when you're talking about Mohamed Salah this year, about the number of goals he scored, the number of assists he's had, and goal involvements, there's been an awful lot. But then you would expect that of somebody that plays in the position that he's in. You know?
When we played, it was goals. And then last night, when we talked about Lamal, it was so many goals and so many assists. I was like, really? You know, 30 odd assists.
So does the inter goalkeeper get an assist? No, he actually got
he
the goal.
got it. It was he got the goal. He got the goal.
Did he get an assist and the goal then?
Now, did someone not score for Scotland like that? Hit the post and then hit the keeper and went in.
No. If you look at the VAR and dubious goals, there's a good chance that it doesn't go down. But as far as I'm aware, it's down there in the record book.
It's yours. This is the CIS.
There could be plenty of other goals that would be like that as you go through your career. And in fact, one of our dear friends, I remember a game, and maybe it was because it was, I think maybe it was actually still on. Yeah, I think it was a televised game, but it was a game at Fir Park for Celtic, and I scored the goal, but Frank tried to claim it. Frank McAvennie tried to claim it. Went at half time and went, I scored that goal, didn't I? I'm like, you taking the piss? Are you being serious?
Oh, was that the one? Was it just crossing the line and he kind of made sure it went in? No, I think that brings up.
It was in. The last touch of the ball, whatever it is, I've flicked over and it is in. Maybe Frank got close, but he's maybe it wasn't. He was claiming it. But that was so important to Frank. That was the measure. That was certainly when I was.
We were talking about early doors with Tony Coy. We done that, but the TV was banned in England, and it was the first one back. It was a cup tie playing Charlton, and I've lobbed the keeper, and it's gone in. I've run away. Tony's run in, smashed it before he just so he could get a goal. I'm going, really?
Just before we continue, I want to say to regular listeners and viewers, I know it's about an hour, but we're going to have another 10 minutes because there's a couple of belting things I want to talk about. But carry on with Tony Cottee and his stats. I loved hearing about this. He actually went home at night and
Tony used to do it. It was he'd go home. I'd go out. He'd go home, get a curry or something, and he would write his diagrams. He did a diary and done diagrams of how he scored.
A description of the goal.
Yeah, everything. Wrote it down on that. And, I was and it was normally Frank passed it to me.
Did they just do cut and paste? Frank passed it to me.
Frank had a shot. It was going wide. I thought it was going to hit the post.
Frank nearly scored, and I caught it in the line and smashed it in the top corner.
Quick reminder, everybody, please to subscribe. Hit the button. Yes. It's on the screen right now. Free to subscribe, and also and social media too, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Brian, you've got your own podcast, Life with Brian, as well, which I love listening to.
Thank you. Yeah, we're it's 50 odd episodes in, with some amazing guests.
Brilliant.
And it's always a surprise to me when somebody turns up and says they fancy coming on. So I really enjoy doing the research on the people that are coming on, because I like to try to find something that they've never been asked before. Because certainly when we were playing whatever, but certainly for me, just to bore the hell out of me, some of the questions you get asked, that's why there's a number of things in the shoot and the Match magazine and those questionnaires that I made up, because it used to annoy me, when players that I admired, it's the same answers, George Benson, steak and chips.
Steak and chips.
Favourite drink, pint of milk, like a shandy or whatever,
Do you remember as well, it was always, who would you most like to meet? And it was either Muhammad Ali or the Pope.
It's always, it's like Paul McStavey talking about LA. He's got his favourite second team Celtic reserves and all that, and he's got that who would you most like to meet, and he's got the Pope at the time. So you have all those, and I just to think this is not entertaining,
No.
But it just reminded me of that, saying, having said that, I mean, some of the things that come out of it, what people pick up on and remember about trivia we mentioned earlier. I think I was walking through Glasgow a number of years ago, and this guy stops, a young lad, and he went, hi, Brian, how you doing? I said, I'm doing really well, thanks, how's things going on? He goes, I've got to tell you, he says, I won the quiz because of you last night, the tiebreaker in this quiz in the pub, 50 quid I won. I said, well done, son, well done, that's really good, that. He goes, yeah. What was your middle name? And I'm like, fuck, what? Middle name? My middle name's John. I'm like, who the fuck would ask in a tiebreaker quiz what Brian McClair's middle name is? He goes, yeah, Tarquin. I'm like, huh? Yeah, that's your middle name, isn't it? Tarquin. I'm like, I put it in that.
Oh, fantastic.
Brilliant.
Much to the irritation of my mother, you know.
Oh, brilliant.
But I'd loved Monty Python, right? And it was just, they had a sketch in that where it was they did University Challenge. You've never seen that, but it was a program.
I did see. I loved it. I loved that.
But
I loved the Monty Python. I loved the Monty
But
Python.
anyway, it was called the team were the upper class twits of the year, right? And one of them was called Ole Fatang Fatang. Biscuit Barrel, Tarquin Biscuit Barrel, or something. I loved this Tarquin. I thought it was a made up name. I didn't realise it was actually a name, right? But and this, not only did the quizmaster fucking read this and pick it out as a tiebreaker question, this other fucker knew the answer to it. That is the weirdest thing.
First thing I'm going to do when we finish is ask ChatGPT what Brian McClair's middle name is to see whether it picks up Shoot Magazine or The Truth. But
there's an awful lot of made up stuff.
I know.
Is that funnier?
I set Brian a bit of homework before we started recording. I asked him to think about his all-time 11. And remember with Simon Donnelly last week, and he asked if he could include himself in the team. And in fairness, it's maybe the way I worded the question, because Brian said, well, if it's teammates, there's only 10 of them. I thought that's a very good point.
I'm only looking at the question, but I've got 11 now.
So, the 11 would be good.
Simon just wanted to pick himself because he's like that.
No, I wouldn't be in mine. Maybe it'd be Sob, because I was really good at that. I think I was probably the best at that.
I'm going to assume that the vast majority are Man United.
Well, you want to hear them?
Yes.
I know, you're going to give him a chance.
So you just and these are not all necessarily maybe sometimes the best players, but these are the ones that had a huge influence on me, on and off the pitch. Right. So I picked Pat Bonner in goals because I'm forever grateful going back to that game at Fir Park where I thought we were going to win, but Celtic were on the way to winning another by 7 again. Maybe it was Roy gave away the penalty, so I should be grateful to him. So scored the goal to make it 1 each, and a high cross came in from the left hand side, and Pat came out to pick it. Kelly licked it, and quite rightly Roy stops, totally confident that Pat's going to hold on to it, and he drops it, and I was right at my feet. So that was, I'm really grateful to. And he did all right, the goalkeeper after that, I think. Played well after that. Good, cracking lad as well.
I know.
Danny McGrain.
Oh, yeah.
Magnificent football player, wonderful man, always great with advice and very funny. I mean, he's never done very many interviews in his life because of probably because of the way he speaks, but funny. And even met him last year, funny man. And what you got with Danny McGrain was quite a simple thing. When he looked up and he saw you running, he would just put the ball in your path.
Yeah. So
it seems to be simple.
That goal you're talking about in '86 at Love Street. And by the way, I was there. I was on the pitch at the end of the match, but I wouldn't go into that story. But
and then for the fullback, Dennis Irwin, 12 years at Manchester United. One of the players who because he does his job so well, nobody really notices. Yeah, and to say 12 magnificent years, and a good. Very good guy, good to be about. You need to have players that sometimes are a wee bit quieter and quite happy to be in the background. Roy Aitken, put him at centre half. Roy's play all over the place, you know.
Yeah.
Again, a wonderful character. Feed the bear.
Yeah.
Gary Pallister.
Okay.
Didn't play enough games for England for me, really, but then he had a lot of competition with Tony Adams and the like. Unfortunately for me, because of a comment that Alex Ferguson made recently, I can't say it, but I've not got any proof now because Fergie's ruined it. Is that Gary Pallister was the most idle person I've ever met, not just football player, the most idle. Right, he would go home every day and just lie on the couch until it was time to go to bed, and then. He was just so idle, right? But you'd have him in my team. It's a centre half. On the right, Gordon Strachan. Great for him when I first went to Manchester United. Funny. Unbelievably funny. Sharp. Great player as well. Another one that would put the ball right exactly where he thought you were supposed to be. So great at that. McStay, there's not really much more you can say about Paul, you know. I mean, great player and a great character. Met him in Australia last summer, and we had a cracking chat up. It was the first time we'd seen each other for about 40 years, but it was as if we'd never been apart. You know,
that's great.
That's wonderful. Seems to be living a good life out there.
He's enjoying himself out there. Yeah, he needs to be living some kind of life. He's got 6 children, hasn't he? So been busy.
Quiet, keep himself quiet. Stays news.
No telly. Norman Whiteside, great player to play with for me. He was always very unselfish. If Norman, a number of occasions, would be 1v1 with a goalkeeper, and he'd roll the ball to the side for you to tap in. Norman, again, is thoroughly entertaining. Never sworn. Norman. Never swears.
He had huge feet.
I don't know about that. I never checked that.
He was size 16.
No, he's never.
No,
well, okay, Wikipedia again.
Maybe that's something like maybe I wrote that.
That's shoot. Besides, you 16.
That's maybe.
So you've got McStay, Whiteside, Tommy Burns on the left-hand side.
What a team this is shaping up to be.
Tommy Burns. I mean, again, compliment him and Gordon. Both redheads, but they're the funniest people I've ever met in football. Yeah. All the time, you know, just cracking stuff all the time. Never stop. You never had a chance to. If you said something back, they'd come back with something. Particularly Tommy, even more acerbic and funnier, you know. And it just all the time and brilliant with advice and wherever you should go. And let's say that go right, come with me, son. We're going to practice this free kick, that sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Cantona, because he was a great player. 2 parts to Eric Cantona. There's Eric, for me, who's a teammate who always wanted to be part of a team and a successful team. You had the reputation of being a badly behaved brat when he came to Manchester United, but he never behaved anything like that the whole time. Yeah, he had 1 or 2 moments where his discipline might have been a bit better. But in that dressing room, when he first came in, he respected, and he showed that he respected the players that were in that dressing room, and he got that respect almost immediately, and he was great to be with. So there's Eric. The Cantona part is the other bit you see, you know, the guy with the blue suit and the red, it's in the collar up. He's not like that. He is Eric. And then the bit you see publicly, and you even see publicly now, is Cantona. And getting away with what he gets away with me, I've got great admiration for him. You know, singing. Got some people tell me he's singing, but he's not really singing. He's just talking over some music, you know. But to have the balls to think that, or to get away with that, you know, that's the Cantona.
Yeah.
And the other one is international games. I'm privileged to have played with Dalglish.
Oh,
wow. So there's not really much more you can say about him. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah. What team?
Imagine how much that'd be worth.
Why? You'd pay, yeah, I'd pay to watch that.
I'm going to go through that very quickly. I'm going to test my memory. So we get Pat Bonner, Danny McGrain and Dennis Irwin, Roy Aitken, Gary Pallister, Gordon Strachan, Paul McStay, Norman Whiteside. Oh, I forgot on the left-hand side of me. Tommy Burns. How could I forget that? Right. With Cantona and Dalglish up front.
And what you'll find is something that Frank was mentioning earlier, none of them were looking to pass the ball backwards.
No. No, that's
not because Packy's in goals.
that would be
none of them.
Packy wouldn't want it.
No, looking to pass the ball backwards. No.
Dare I ask?
That would be like the Globetrotters, one of football. They would just entertain. That's
the thing. In the dressing room, like, if anybody asks me now, simple, do you miss? I only miss the dressing room.
So do
I'm delighted to have achieved all the things that I've achieved and had the experiences that I've had and all the places I've been, but that dressing room is the best part of football, whether it was at Motherwell, Celtic, Manchester United, or when we were involved in international duty, because that's the best thing.
Doesn't get better now.
You only really had, I was going to say you only ever had 2 managers, David Hay and Sir Alex Ferguson, but when you finish your career at Motherwell, who was in charge there for that brief 6 months or so?
The Finnish lad who was so good, I can't remember his name.
Well, I was going to go
Billy Davis got the job after that, you know. So
I was going to say, you've picked your all-time 11, who the manager might be. I think we know the answer to that. the Finnish lad.
Well, but I'm very
Finnish
grateful
guy.
though that he
Can't
never
remember.
managed me to Billy, you know, because he decided to sign me for Celtic. He was the one that chose, you know,
course,
to
aye.
sign me from. So I'm very grateful for him, and I'm very grateful for Charlie McLeod for having this idea that some 17-year-old boy who'd never played a senior game was
Right.
good enough to go into his team.
Straight away the following day.
Yeah, but for the longevity of being with somebody for 24 years, I'd have to, and seeing him as a player, and then on the other side of it, being part of a staff at Manchester United, it'd have to be Alex Ferguson.
This is a record. This is the longest podcast, but there's not been a wasted second.
I know.
How good has
Been
this
great,
been?
though. It's been
Honestly,
good-
I
been
mean,
great to get you on.
absolutely fantastic. Sometimes, and won't name names in it, sometimes I'm looking at the clock and thinking we need to wind this up. You know, this has been absolutely fantastic.
That's terrible. That talking about guests that
Sorry,
way.
you can edit it. You
No,
know.
I know. I can. Well, you're getting cut down to
That-
half hour.
There's not a chance. I don't think there's a second. There's not a second of this we can take out. I'm just waiting to
We can
Spotty.
cut all you out.
Spotty Spice
That'll
on
take it down to
TikTok.
about 20 minutes.
You need to stop asking all the questions. That's the problem.
I know. But it's been great. It's actually been brilliant having you on, Brian.
No,
Thank
thanks
you.
for asking me. I've
Cheers,
had
mate.
a great time. Yeah, it's always good. It's to say that my podcast has always been about the same thing. People sitting around chatting about football. You know, people ask, you know, do you ever get fed up talking about football? While people are interested in talking about football, I'll talk about it because it spawns so many great conversations and opinions.
Yeah.
You know, so
absolutely.
and that's what I love about football fans. They all know football, and you can have some cracking times with them.
Cracking discussions, can you?
So-
thank you very much.
Anyone who wants to listen to Life with Brian, easy enough to find it on all the usual platforms. So,
Yes, indeed, you can. Yeah.
brilliant. Well, I thoroughly recommend that because if you watch this, you'll obviously know how good a storyteller he is and some brilliant recollections. But it's been fantastic.
Been great. Absolutely great.
I'm delighted. I
Final
could recollect.
part. Give us a prediction for Sunday.
Sunday. What's happening on Sunday?
Final Rangers Celtic.
It amuses me.
Celtic
that-
Rangers.
What amuses me is it could be the first time in the history of when there's been 4 league games that a team could win 3 Old Firm games and still not win the league.
I know.
But I think in the last 2 games, Celtic haven't done themselves any particular favour, so I fancy them to win on Sunday.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling too that Celtic
you know,
might go into, they've got something to prove a wee bit, even though they've
I
just won
think
the league.
that point, you know, particularly in the last game, you know, where not the losing goals early on, to come back into the game and then not
miss.
understand that was
How
a
to get it,
point
how
will
to see
do,
out.
Yeah.
was I think the bitter disappointment for him at the end, you know. Oh,
Yeah. I think we'll do it Sunday. So I'll get 2-1 to Celtic. That's what I'm taking. If I was a gambling man, I'm not. I've gambled with too many other things.
Aye, well, that's true. Right, well, we shall leave it there. Brian, absolute pleasure. Can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Listening to 2 Celtic legends.
Yep.
And
Chatting, brilliant.
talking. I could do this all day.
I know,
It's fantastic. But anyway, that was it. So thanks again to Brian. And as I said before, hit subscribe.
Yep.
Follow us on all the social media channels. And we will be back again soon with another episode of Let Me Be Frank podcast. Cheers.
Take
See you
care.
later.